Hi there, my name is Memo, this is my channel Houseplanty Goodness, and essentially it's a place where I like to geek out about my big passion, which you might be able to see behind me is tropical houseplants. And hopefully, if you've stumbled across this video, or even if YouTube has suggested it to you, it might mean that you're getting into your tropical houseplants as well. So today's video, I want to talk about the gorgeous plant that you've seen in probably quite a few of my videos. And dare I say it, I would probably go as far as saying that this might be my favorite plant, or maybe my favorite philodendron in my collection. And this is the Philodendron Esmeraldense. This is its newest leaf, and you can see it's still a bit soft. So it is still growing, and it will probably grow even longer. You can see here some of its older leaves. And I will probably be doing a video closer to when we're getting into wintertime in the Northern Hemisphere. But this plant, unfortunately, having moved as many plants as I did from previous property to this property, and I was really worried that they weren't going to transport well, nearly everything transported perfectly. This was a plant that got cold damage for 48 hours, and I hadn't realized. I will do a separate video about cold damage and how I dealt with it, especially when it came to this plant and another plant as well. But for now, let's talk a bit more about the care that I've given this plant, because I've had it now for over a year. I got it as a single leaf rooted cutting for an obscene amount of money on eBay, considerably less than what you would pay now for such a mature specimen, because it was a very mature leaf when I got it. And I know you're starting to see these come out a bit more now and people can get them, but they're much more immature leaves. I know Kaylee Ellen on her channel was talking about the fact that she was hoping that she'd kept one of the more mature specimens that she bought into the rare plant shop when she first got them into the UK. I have a very sneaky suspicion that this might have been a cutting from one of those original plants that got sold to somebody, and then they took a cutting, rooted it out, and then sold it on eBay. So I'm very fortunate enough to have a relatively mature specimen. As I said, this is probably going to get even longer. And I mentioned, obviously, the cold damage. It's probably on the lowest leaves, and you probably can't see them here. I'll see if I can find a picture, and I'll put it in the corner so you can see different examples of how cold damage manifested itself in this plant. But as I mentioned, I'll do a separate video for that. In terms of care, it's obviously in my plant room. I think it's a relatively hardy philodendron. I probably wouldn't just now, if I was to cut this and propagate this to add a second one to my collection, I might then attempt growing that in a regular household community, but I'd say it might do okay. The only thing that's kind of worrying me is that the leaves are slightly thin, probably no thinner than maybe a gloriosum leaves. You can see it's relatively shiny now. That's because this is a new leaf. You can see it's a bit more matte in the more mature and hardened off leaves. It's not velvety, it is more leathery. And obviously the ripples and the kind of long form is kind of the main morphological difference to this, to some other philodendron, essentially. It is a climber, so it does need something to climb up. At the moment, it's strutted up quite heavily onto my support sticks. I think if this grows one more leaf, probably at that point, I'm going to have to move it onto the ground and give it a bigger moss pole, maybe a bigger pot as well, so it can grow up. At the moment, I have got this in my light, airy, aroid soil mix. And again, there's a video on my channel, so do feel free to check that out. I've also got the ingredients for all of that in a link in the description down below, so do check that out as well. But yeah, in terms of pests, this has been relatively good when it comes to pest pressures. It doesn't really get too many pests. I've maybe had spider mites on this once, and I've kind of dealt with it, and I kind of had ignored it for a while, so it could have got a lot worse, but it didn't seem to spread as quickly. Touch wood, hopefully that stays the same. This has actually been one of the easiest philodendrons that I've got in my care, and relatively hardy. And I think if any other of my philodendrons or any other of my plants had got the same amount of cold damage, I probably would have lost them. This plant took a bit of a knock. It took about a month and a half to kind of really bounce back, but it instantly started pushing out new leaves. This might have been the leaf that it brought out after the cold damage, so it's slightly narrower and slightly shorter, still relatively long, a long leaf, or as Kaylee Ellen would say, these are long boys. This is definitely a very, very long boy. But yeah, relatively easy plant to take care of. If you are thinking about it, I know the prices are quite high at the moment. If you manage to get one with a decent price, I'd say go for it. I'd say see if you can get your hands on one. They have been a joy to grow. It's been easy. And again, I will always caveat this. This is in my experience, in my care, in my environment. All these things have applied. It might be different in yours, but really, really cool plants. I know there is a very similar looking philodendron, which is called the Philodendron patricii, I think. That is considerably harder to take care of, and I know people that have been caring for rarer aroids and rarer philodendrons, even they will struggle with that philodendron much more so than this one. If I'm not mistaken, the reason why this is called the Philodendron Esmeraldense is because of the location where it was originally found. I'm not even going to try and pronounce, was it Esmeraldense or Esmeralda? There was a village or a region in South America, if I'm not mistaken, where this was found. And obviously these longer leaves, philodendrons, and I know this is quite different, but they all harken back to that kind of essentially unattainable wish list plant for a lot of people, which is the Philodendron Spiritus Sancti with the kind of much longer leaves and the lobes and everything else. And as I said, this is different in many ways, but it's similar in the fact that it's quite a long form of a leaf, essentially. I also think, if I'm not mistaken, the region where this has come from is quite close to the region where the Spiritus Sancti is from as well. So, bit of a random bit of information for you there. But yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say about this plant. If you've got any questions, comments, if you've got this plant, if you're thinking about getting this plant, do drop them down below. I'd love to have that conversation with you. I'd also like to see what you're doing if you have got one, how you're growing it in your conditions. And yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say. Hopefully you've enjoyed. Hopefully I shall see you here soon. And I really, truly hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.